So who are you?
Yeah, my name is Peter Thoeny. I started Twiki as an open source enterprise collaboration platform 12 years ago. At that time I moved over from Japan to the Silicon Valley, where I started to work for a tiny company and where I had a need for an enterprise wiki, and that's how Twiki started.
And who are you?
I'm Jitendra Kavathekar. I'm president and CEO of the company. And I actually met Peter about a year ago, came on the company about a year ago. Came out of Yahoo. I was vice president of web analytics at Yahoo. And we used Twiki pretty heavily back at Yahoo. And before that I was at Motorola. Before that I was at a startup. Longtime Twiki user. And
cool.
Honored to work with Peter on transforming companies.
Very cool. How is work changing? And let's just talk about the space that you're in, because it's undergoing extreme change now. I'm sure you're watching this whole space
Oh, yes.
evolve. I mean, we're here in the Computer History Museum, but down the
Right.
street is Google with Google Docs and spreadsheets. There's Zoho. There's Jive is talking about going public, right? I mean, who knew a company could go public in this space, right?
Right.
And there's Social Text and Socialcast and on and on. There's all these companies in this space.
Sure.
What are you seeing happen, and where do you think, how is work changing?
Well, I think it's changing fundamentally at the workplace, especially to be more transparent, have more accountability. People are willing to share more stuff. So if you look at two extremes, on one side is the industrial age company, on the other side the information age company. In the industrial age company, you are at some position, you basically hold that position by your title, and I'm only sharing as much as I want or I need to in order to do my work, but not more, because it can be taken as a disadvantage if I share too much. On the other side, information age company, there the more I share, the more I'm understood to be a guru, so it's actually a good thing to share. And when I started Twiki as this enterprise collaboration platform, that's basically the vehicle to do that. And initially, management just didn't know about this. First they ignored it, and then they thought about it against it. And so initially it's just a bottom-up movement. And now, fortunately, maybe also because of Wikipedia, it was more well known about what's possible with sharing on a large scale, so that also can work very well within a company. But then, of course, within the company, there are many different requirements. So people make then a mistake to try to apply what works in Wikipedia to apply at the company, and it doesn't really work well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would only add that the age-old problem of breaking silos within companies continues. And if you look at the enterprise software for the last 30 years, it's pretty much created stovepipes.
Yeah.
As necessary as that may have been as a side effect.
Explain what you mean by stovepipe.
Well, what I mean is that when a vendor comes in to sell an HR system, an HRIS system, they're selling to the VP of HR with their staff. They don't really care about necessarily designing for the engineering leadership or the marketing organization. It's really the client is the HR organization. And so the features and the technologies are really geared towards that. And if you look at each of those functions having software for themselves, it's a good starting point, but now information is locked in silos.
Yeah.
Those stovepipe technologies with a siloed culture makes it harder and harder for companies to break through those barriers and have their teams work together. And so those gaps in between functions is where we live. We want to provide solutions for two disparate organizations to find ways to work with each other.
So you're talking like Mark Benioff at Salesforce, but he's coming at it from the Salesforce team,
Yeah.
stovepipe, and he's trying to spread out into the
Sure,
rest
that's
of the
great.
company,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And where are you guys coming at the?
Well, I think when Peter started Twiki.org 12 years ago, it's got a lot of movement, a lot of followers of the movement from the IT organization and technical communities. So we definitely have a lot of installed base there. So we look at where engineering teams work with marketing organizations or sales organizations as starting points. But literally, anybody within the organization can start using it. We also have government agencies using it as well. If you look at what's happening with the Gulf situation right now, many different departments trying to get in and try to help help solve the problem, but they don't necessarily share information that readily with each other. And so there's place for these types of technologies to help.
Yeah. One neat thing I liked about your software is the idea of an application that doesn't really look like a wiki, right?
Yes, exactly. So, in fact, like many companies, just install Twiki internally and use it like any other wiki. They could use a media wiki, they could use Moimon or any other wiki as well. But where our focus is actually these application capabilities. So, think of like one use case, tech pubs. They have a need for a work request tracker. So what typically happens, somebody within that team installs a like a web server and writes a small PHP application for the work request tracker. But then a year, 2 years later, who is going to maintain that application? Who is doing the backup of that? And sometimes those are mission critical data. So there are all these silos that are built. So it's basically a nightmare for IT to maintain that. And so if Twiki is deployed in a broadly within the organization, then actually IT likes that because then IT can say, okay, go ahead and build an application, but build it in Twiki.
Yeah.
So
now, is Twiki software that I load on my own servers, or do I host all the data and the code on your servers?
Well, we do both. So there's the Twiki.org, the open source. So if you have the technical skills and you know how to configure Apache config files, then you can go for the open source, and you're happy with, let's say, this Lego box that you install and you build your own applications. But as a company, we provide a hosting solution as well as a VMware-based virtual appliance. That adds like a whole enterprise 2.0 stack around the open source enterprise core.
Actually, and just to add to that, of the 90 paying customers that we do have, spanning Fortune 500 companies as well as government agencies, kind of have a half and half split between folks that want an on-premise solution versus a SaaS offering.
Yeah.
And our future direction is really going to be about SaaS. Both Web 2.0.
Companies are getting more and more used to it.
More and more used to it, and you'd be surprised the companies that are starting to adopt it. You know, we can't.
I've even heard about pharmaceutical companies, which I thought would resist
we
this
have
for decades.
we have even a major bank
yeah.
that is using our hosting solution. Just like 3-4 years ago, we would have never thought that is possible.
Wow.
And you had picked up on a point about an application within the wiki. If you think about that concept a little bit more, it's really about taking structured data that you find in typical enterprise application, as well as unstructured data that you find in wikis. And it's really kind of a mashup of the two ideas. And so what you end up having is what might look like classic enterprise software, but the data is schemaless, so you're not bounded by things. You can add content to this, and the content that you add doesn't have to be just a comment box. It could be pictures, it could be documents, it could be RSS feeds coming from the outside about that particular record. It could be a CRM and you really want to know something about that customer. Get their RSS feeds for the blogs, get their tweets in this one particular record.
Yeah.
You can do that for CRM.
And nothing looks like, it doesn't look like a wiki the way I remember, Ward Cunningham's wiki, right, where I had to put brackets and do all sorts of funky coding to make it do stuff, right?
And we're trying to find that middle ground between classic enterprise software that people don't have to think too hard to use. There's no edit button really, and they just want to use software and there's forms to fill out. But blending that with the idea of finding ways to get what's in people's heads onto the wiki. Yeah. Try to bring that all together in a seamless solution. That's really what we're about. Yeah. And so we're taking wikis to the next level.
Interesting. Are you guys thinking about mobile at all? Because the old style wiki was, there wasn't an iPhone when Mark Cunningham wrote his first wiki, right? Now we're walking around with iPhones or Android phones or whatever is going to come out this year.
Wouldn't it be great if you can navigate your wiki or navigate your application through the phone and get information back and forth? It's a great input method for getting content. Classically, wikis and wiki-based applications are only successful when the people actually use it and put more information on it, and so the mobile phone is one of the sources of that, as well as an off-ramp, right? And so you can actually view the content as well.
Yeah, so actually, in fact, 4 years ago, we built a prototype where, mainly for construction business, so where somebody in the field at a construction site just dials a number on the cell phone and punches in a project number of that particular construction site and then can leave a voicemail, and then it ends up automatically as text on a wiki page.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Very cool.
So that technology can be quite useful, especially also, we in high tech are so much used to use a keyboard, right? Yeah. But like in construction business, they're very experienced folks, but they're afraid to touch a keyboard, right?
Yeah.
So they have a lot of knowledge in their head, and then young folks coming into the company, they are all about Facebook and all this other stuff. So the question is then, how do we transfer that knowledge from the very experienced person to the new folks getting into the company? And so there, with the phone integration into that corporate knowledge base, makes a whole lot of sense.
Now, where is this world moving? What are you sensing from your customers? What are they expecting? Are they asking you to build dashboards of applications that each go and grab some data and present that, or are they asking for streams that look like Facebook?
Yeah.
You know, which is the Salesforce chatter and the Yammer approach, or?
So I see it basically both ways. So on one hand, companies, mid-sized, large companies, expect kind of an enterprise to suite. That's basically where Jive, Social Text, and also we are. And it's a ready-made suite that has the Facebook-like stuff, but for company internally used. It has the blogging, the micro-blogging internal, and all these other things. So
and calendar
and calendaring, yeah, right.
Do you do spreadsheets or anything?
Yeah,
like
so
that?
there's plus project management and all that stuff, right? But then what we also see is that there are more and more companies that also start to crank out these little applications. So IT is too busy to create a little tracker to be export compliant for software, or to create an application, for requirements management for a new release of a small software. So there, then more and more companies start to build their own applications. So we know of one like Mars, the candy company.
Yeah.
They crank out about 4 to 5 applications a month.
Wow.
And so that means it's not IT that is creating the applications, basically the user base. So some technical folks within the business units create those applications. And IT likes this because it solves the shadow IT problem they're afraid of. Right? Because IT then is all concerned about backing up the data, about access control, about availability, right? And they don't have time and don't care really so much about the application logic, and so it's a nice platform to do that.
Very cool. How do I buy you guys? And what kinds of companies should engage with you about buying your service or your?
Yeah, well, certainly you can come to our website, twiki.net, and we have a way for you to reach out to us in terms of which product you might want more information about. Right now, we're on a kind of direct sales model. We are transitioning to a SaaS sales model eventually, where we'll have credit card type purchases. But www.twiki.net, and on the open source side, it's free to download. Take it as a zip file or tarball, and run it yourself if you're technically minded. Twiki.org is the website for that.
Very cool.
And we should probably talk about the newest release.
Yes, so a little announcement.
You're here on Newsday.
Yes, actually, yeah, it's
Just
actually
happens to be.
perfect timing. So today we are announcing the Twiki 5.0.0 release. So the community has been working for over 2 years on that release, on a trunk branch compared to the branches. That is very stable. It's a rock solid release. In this release, we have many feature enhancements as well as security enhancement. But where we really focused on this release is on usability. So Twiki, because of its technical roots, is mainly deployed in engineering/IT. We are working hard to basically make it approachable to everybody within an organization. So we have lots of usability enhancement with a brand new skin, with a pull-down menu that has been vetted by some usability experts, like reducing the screen real estate so that you have really more content space for your own content. Improved WYSIWYG editor, improved browsing capabilities, etc. So I'm actually very proud of the open source team that worked very hard to make 5.0 available. So now it is here. So if you go to twiki.org and download, you're downloading the latest release, latest release. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, congrats for getting that done, and thanks for coming out and,
thanks for the
telling me a
opportunity.
little bit about what you're seeing happen, because you're in the middle of a real firestorm around how work is changing. You know, it's not about Microsoft Office anymore.
And it's a very active space as well. You see CubeTree getting acquired by SuccessFactors, and so there's definitely a lot of interest in the space, and I think companies are looking at how this is all going to shake out, because it's a fast-moving target, but there's also a lot of companies that are trying to attack it at different levels. So.
There's also like picking up on what you just mentioned, this paradigm shift that's happening from the office paradigm to the collaborative paradigm. So the Office paradigm, I own that spreadsheet, and if you want to make some changes, send me your changes by email, and I merge it back, or I send it to you and you make changes. But there's always one owner, right? Whereas once you create content online, then content is expected to be owned by the team. So, that's actually quite a big paradigm shift that needs some coaching and some time. And many companies have made that shift quite substantially, and other companies are just scratching the surface on that. So
now, I see it on planes. Some people are in the modern world, and some people are still in the world I used to live in 10 or 15 years ago. You know, so.
Okay.
Well,
Great.
thanks for
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.